All right, and here we go. Hey everyone, and welcome to the Webline, a podcast about Spider-Man and his amazing world. Here we discuss all aspects of our favorite web slinger in a fun, informal, but informative forum. I am your humble host, the Spidey Librarian, and this week I'll be digging into another tier list episode. Unlike previous tier list episodes, I'll be doing this one with a guest. With me today is my friend and aficionado of comic book history, Steve Moore. Steve, how are you doing today?
Good, thanks, Tony. Hi, true believers.
Now, Steve and I have known each other for a few years, and we actually have like a common friend in common, and he introduced us. But one of the ways that we kind of kicked off our relationship is that I just found out that Steve has a ridiculously kind of broad and deep knowledge of comic books, and particularly comic books from earlier eras than when I was reading. So, as we talk about comic book covers, I feel like this is going to be a whole lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to hearing your perspectives on a lot of these. So, all right. So, the subject of this historically heroic tier list, the comic covers from the earliest parts of Spider Man's life as a bona fide comic book character. We'll delve into the first 20 issues of Amazing Spider Man, as well as Amazing Fantasy 15 and the very first issue of Amazing Spider Man Annual. Be sure to follow along using the tier maker link featured in the podcast show notes or the live stream description. Be sure to subscribe to the Webline on your favorite podcast service and leave us a like, review, and follow where appropriate. If you're on a service that doesn't carry the Webline, let me know just by shooting me an email at spideylibrarian@gmail.com, and I'll do what I can to get it pushed out to you. But before we do a daring dive into our timely topic, it's time to dish on the latest spiderific developments with our knockout news segment, the Bugle News Flash. All right. Okay. So for our first news item of this last week, Disney has an animated film that has done better in the international box office than Across the Spider-Verse. And I thought this was really interesting news. And I'd like to note that this does not mean that it has been that's its worldwide gross. And I'll clarify that in just a moment here. So in the film Elemental has basically grossed more at the international box office than Across the Spider-Verse. I haven't watched Elemental. I don't know a lot of what it's about. I think I've seen like one or two quick trailers, but essentially it looks like it's a kind of like teen slash rom-com featuring a water person and a fire person trying to get together. It looks cute. I don't know if I'm going to watch it, but apparently it has legs worldwide. The total worldwide gross so far for Elemental is $454.3 million, which is pretty good. It had $151 million domestically, but outside of the US it is where the headline comes from. It grossed $307.2 million. Across the Spider-Verse worldwide grossed $305.9 million. So outside of the US, Across the Spider-Verse is getting beat by another animated film. But when you total the worldwide totals, it's still way ahead of them. It grossed 151, Elemental grossed 151 million domestic. Across the Spider-Verse grossed $380.9 million. So it is very comfortably ahead of Across the Spider-Verse with a total of $686.8 million worldwide. Just an interesting little note that I thought was really cool to mention. And Martinez Plays is in the live stream chat today. How are you doing, my friend? And has just said congratulations on 800 subs. Thank you very much. I'm very excited. Hopefully one day, maybe in the next year or so, I don't know, we'll hit 1,000. and we'll really be able to celebrate. But thank you, I appreciate that. All right, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse has an original score vinyl set that is coming out soon, and apparently you can get it at a discount on Amazon, which I found really interesting. So the set, and I only looked at it just briefly before we started the podcast, but it's an actual record. It's got a lot of good original art on it, a lot of kind of collectible, things that'll appeal to collectors. And you can get it for $34.99 on Amazon as of this broadcast. Today is Sunday, August 27th, 2 p.m. Central. And it's $45 just about anywhere else. So if you are interested in vinyl, if you want to do some record scratching to the score of the Across the Spider-Verse movie, then hop on Amazon and get that for yourself. Marvel's Spider-Man 2. You guys know this game that I'm looking forward to so much for October. It has officially received its rating. I've got bad news for those of you who were looking for a very gory, mature, M for mature rating. That's not happening. It is going to be rated T for teens, just like its predecessor. And I think that's perfectly fine. I know that Venom is going to be in this one. I know that Craven is going to be in this one. And they could, they could go gory. But doesn't look like that's going to happen. I'm all right with it. Spider-Man 2 will be T for teens, and that's all right. A little bit of news from the Marvel Comics November solicits. The Superior Spider-Man is apparently returning. It looks like Doc Ock has need to kind of become the Superior Spider-Man again. I From what little I've read about it, it's like he doesn't really remember that portion of his life, and he needs a piece of information from that portion of his life, and so he's going to like try to become the Superior Spider-Man. I don't know. You guys know how convoluted Marvel canon and Spider-Man canon can get. Just go with it. We're gonna see what happens. I'm sure it'll be fun. And I don't think Dan Slott's going to be writing this one. So this iteration of Superior Spider-Man will be very different. It'll be out in the comics in November. I'll probably read it. I liked Superior Spider-Man. At least I liked it up until the ending. I didn't think the ending was particularly strong, but whatever. Also, Spider Kid. I haven't talked much about Spider Kid because I was hoping he would just go away, but apparently he is here to stay. He's getting his own series, and this is like a new well, apparently he's not new. Apparently he appeared at some point in the 80s and was promptly forgotten about or ridiculed by other comic books readers, and they just dropped him and never did anything with him ever again. Well, apparently there is a narrative explanation for that, and I'm really eager to see what it will be. All right. So there's an upcoming game out called Project Mugen or Mugen, Mugen, which I was a little fascinated by this because they were showing footage of it. And apparently it features wall running and swinging mechanics that look like they are very, very kind of like similar to the mechanics from the Marvel Spider-Man games. So I I don't know. It looks like it draws influence from a whole lot of other video games, though. Looks like Genshin Impact, at least in terms of the visual design and stuff like that. Spider-Man, and a couple of other ones that I'm not familiar with. I might try it out. I don't know if it's free to play. I don't know if it's mobile. We'll see, but I'll check it out. And if you guys feel free to check it out, tell me what you think of it. So let's see. Final one. Oh, not final one. Okay. Oh, no, it is. Ah, fancy that. Okay. Final piece of news, and this I'm bringing up only because it is just so rare. But I actually found myself in agreement with something that Dan Slott said on social media. Uh, Dan Slott, I'm sure a lot of you know, it was a very prolific writer on Amazing Spider-Man. He is basically, he's written a lot of good stuff. He's written a lot of stuff that have kind of like, okay, you need to go, Dan. But he has written a range of stuff. So essentially he's defending post Endgame Marvel Cinematic Universe content. He actually went on Twitter and he said something I didn't agree with. Basically, um, there's been a lot of detractors of shows like Ms. Marvel, She-Hulk, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, stuff like that. And kind of what he went on and said, I kind of agreed with him, which, he basically kind of told people, spend time focusing on like what what you love about the MCU instead of focusing on the things that you don't love. And usually I don't care what he says, but he said something here that I kind of agree with, and I'm just like, wow, um, that's interesting, and I think it's a good idea for Spider-Man fandom. We're getting pretty divided on a lot of things, and I think at the end of the day, it's a good idea for us to just kind of remember, hey, we're Spider-Man fans. We love this character. We should kind of use that as a reason to kind of come together instead of sniping at each other for all the differences that we don't like. And I mean, this applies to the MCU as well. There's going to be things that people put out that you're not going to like, or maybe it's just not for you. And that's okay. Like there's going to be other people that it's for, and that's fine. Um, so I was just surprised that Dan Slott said something that I agreed with, because usually I kind of find Dan Slott to be a little bit of a troll sometimes in the way he interacts with Spider-Man fans. So hopefully, hopefully this will lead to me not disliking a lot of what he says in the future. So, anyways, I think that's going to be all the Spidey news for this week. So now let's get ready for our feature segment, the tier list, rating the various Spider-Man comic book covers from the 1960s. So hold on just a second and we are going to get going. All right, there we are. Okay. And with me here is Steve Moore over on this side. And we're going to be talking about the first 20 issues of Amazing Spider-Man. We're going to be doing a tier list for them and where we would put them. And then we are just going to we're going to bring up some visuals so that those of you in the live stream can follow along. So feel free to do that. And then, oh, hold on. There we go. And then, I've got the tier maker list link in the live stream description. So please feel free to check it out and follow along if you wish. And we're going to get going. So now, before we get started, I want to go over a few housekeeping notes. These tier lists are created by me using the tier maker software at tiermaker.com. Once I've completed these tier list templates, I'll put them out on my various social media, where you're welcome to download a copy and follow along with me as I make my ratings. Please feel free to save your ratings and send them to my Discord server using the channel named Webline Tier List. If you enjoy these tier lists, please also rate them on tiermaker.com. I will also provide links to the segment's tier list in the show notes and the live stream descriptions. To those of you present with me right now on the live stream, please feel free to give your opinions and assessments of the tier list. The covers on it. You can tell I'm using a template, but so please feel free to give your opinions and assessments of the comic book covers on them and where you'd place them. I would ask that you keep your discussions civil and respectful, as I may refer and react to your comments during the live stream. Finally, tier lists are very personal, and people will have differing opinions as to who may belong where. I'm offering up this tier list not as the authoritative end-all, be-all of Spider-Man tier lists, but as an expression of my own opinions about these characters as a comics reader, Spider fan, and connoisseur of the wall crawler across many media. Please feel free to disagree with me, but please keep your disagreements civil and respectful. We're all Spider-Man fans here, and we should keep that in mind whenever we're expressing our views on this subject. With all that said, let's get into it and figure out which of these awesome initial Spider-Man covers deserves which rating. I've assembled a list of 22 covers. Hold on one second here. There we go. I've assembled a listing of 22 covers, all from the earliest reaches of Spider-Man's first appearances. Most of the artwork here is done by the inimitable Steve Ditko, so expect high ratings for many of these covers, as Steve Moore, not Ditko, and I are both fascinated by these early iconic works. And I'm going to bring up a visual for the covers that we will be talking about, starting right here. And I'm going to bring up another visual for Steve and I to look at directly. And so we're going to go ahead and just start with Amazing Fantasy 15. This is, of course, the first look that a lot of people got of Spider-Man back when he was first published. This cover is by Jack Kirby, not Steve Ditko, and features the first appearance of the wall crawler. Steve, thoughts on this cover, and where would you place it?
Can you blow the big one up again?
Oh, sorry. Yes, go ahead.
Thanks. And I got to do a little bit of context because it's me. I can't help myself. So we're still at the dawn of Marvel. I think Marvel is all of the soft reboot of Martin Goodman's publishing empire that is Marvel. Is about 9 months old.
I couldn't tell you offhand, but that makes sense, I suppose.
Yeah. So and the competition across the road were the only other one, DC or National at the time, were the only ones doing superhero comics prior to that. And their covers, well, digress a little bit further. Back then, covers were how you sold the book. All the tools that you have now to sell a book did not exist. There were also house ads, and Stan would introduce it. Would introduce his Stan Lee soapbox to build fan community. But you weren't going to see the house ads or the soapbox if you didn't buy the book and open it up.
Right.
So the covers existed to sell the book. They had to identify the book. They had to pop on a newsstand, which is a thing that used to exist, and they had to be recognizable. So I think this one, and DC did a lot of gimmick covers where they would do something that would apparently upend the status quo of the book. Batman's going to get married, or Superman's identity is revealed, or they'd go through some
Right.
kind of a physical transformation, and then you'd buy the book to see how they wrote their way out of it, or if there was really going to be a change, which there never was. But and Lee and Ditko, even though Marvel was new, they were both old pros by this time. They knew all this stuff.
Yeah, they'd been working in the industry for like a couple of decades at this point, right?
Yeah, but I noticed with Marvels, and it continues here, the earlier Marvels in this, it continues. It's a more organic approach to sucking people in.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, even though Kirby drew this, I believe the character was designed by Steve Ditko.
Yes.
And Kirby and Ditko were both uh, master storytellers and also incredibly imaginative designers. And so
And I believe Kirby did the pencils for this, and Ditko actually did the inks for it too.
that computes
Yeah.
that. But
So
this was the first. This was the first people saw the costume, saw the character, and it just works. The design's like nothing you've ever seen before in comics. Most comics characters were sort of more or less on the Superman model with underwear outside their pants, or
right.
maybe just a monochrome suit with a belt and boots or gloves to offset it, and then it's some sort of chest emblem. But you've never seen anything like this, and it's all the web lines. It's a very busy costume, but it also looks very balanced and it works. And if somebody's going to see this on the shelf, and it's like, this is nothing I've ever seen before.
Yeah, and I mean, for me personally, I mean, like I know this cover intimately because I have, been I've been a Spider-Man fan since I was tiny. And so like, even the dialogue on it, though the world may mock Peter Parker, timid teenager, it will soon marvel at the awesome might of Spider-Man. I mean, like that, that dialogue is just kind of like maybe not burned into my brain, but I know the gist of it pretty well. And so for me personally, I would rate this S tier just in terms of the recognizability, just in terms of the kind of like the wow factor, especially given that, hey, it's his first appearance. Um, I mean, I might take a little off in terms of like, Jack Kirby's illustration is he liked very kind of classic hero musculature. With Steve Ditko, he tried to make Peter a little bit more nebbish, and so I feel like there like I might take like a tiny bit off there, but we're talking like 2 points out of 100. And so for me personally, I would personally put this in the S tier. What about you?
I would agree with you on that. If I had any notes on it, they had just they slightly modified the name of the book. It used to be Amazing Adult Fantasy,
Right.
which at the
Yes.
time apparently did not mean porn. Uh, but they kind of it's like they phoned it in on the masthead there, the Amazing Fantasy logo.
Right.
But there's so much going on, and Kirby's got a geometry with where the characters place. It just sucks your eye into the center of the book. So maybe it doesn't matter that much that the headlines not all that thrilling.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But overall, totally, totally S tier. All right, we're going to move on to the very first issue of Amazing Spider-Man. And so, uh, what do we think of this one, Steve? This, I guess for me, this cover basically kind of sets up the conceit that this hero does not exist in a vacuum. He is going to be very interconnected with the rest of the kind of Marvel universe that Stan and others were kind of building. And so just from the get-go, Stan connects Spider-Man to his other, like one of his other earliest creations in this world, which would be the Fantastic Four. And so again, this is another cover that is kind of up there for me simply because it's cool to see the Fantastic Four for one. And it kind of leaves you with this sense of mystery, like what the heck is going on? Why is he like splayed out here, almost like he's on display for them?
Yeah, it's like
So
he's in a test tube or something. And
right,
it's
yeah,
Kirby again, right? Kirby and
that
Ditko.
is a good question that I don't immediately have an answer for, but
It looks like Kirby to me, and
I can figure that out very quickly.
it looks like his capability to do kind of trippy sci-fi scenes that pull you in.
Yeah, no, it could be. I want to be certain though. I thought I'd been under the impression that Steve Ditko had done all of the covers, but that's just an impression.
Yeah,
I could have easily gotten that one wrong.
yeah, maybe you're right. And it kind of looks like definitely like Ditko inks the faces, some of uh, the poses look like Kirby to me.
All right, so here we go. We've got a I wanted to go to the page, but apparently this wiki is not being kind to me. Okay, so the penciler for everything is Steve Ditko, but the art actually is by Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko. So Kirby continued to do, I guess, at least one, maybe two of these covers. I don't know for certain, but I guess upon closer look, I mean, Spidey does still look very kind of classically superhero-esque going on there. And the Fantastic Four, I mean, yeah, I could see it, but I guess I had initially just figured that Steve had done all of these, but apparently Jack Kirby got his fingers in on the first one as well. So that's pretty cool. So
One other thing I would talk about too is the masthead is light years ahead of the Amazing Fantasy one, and I know they had a concern about Spider-Man and Superman looking, the covers looking similar on the newsstands, or on the racks, whatever. I understand. Isn't that why they added the dash between spider and man to make differentiate that?
That's a good question. The hyphen is something that I still need to research, but I could totally see that being a reason because, I mean, not only do Spider-Man and Superman have similar letter structure in their names, but I mean they also have red and blue as their primary colors. So I could totally understand if that were a reason for people to
They also really bring it home with the web design into the logo.
yes, yes. No, I like it. Hail to the geeks on the live stream chat says that the action on the cover isn't clear to me. Is he stuck to the glass? Is he suspended somehow? And I think he's just kind of using an early iteration of his wall crawling powers to just kind of. I think he's trying to make himself look weak here. If I remember correctly, the kind of audition that he does isn't exactly the most humble one or even the most conflict-free one, which kind of plays into Peter's youth and bravado at the time. So,
And I always like a book where some of the early Marvels could really, especially if you're not familiar with this is all brand new, still Dawn of Marvel. You look at the cover and you just say, what is going on? Why is he in this tube?
yeah,
Why is what's all this machinery about? If you ask those questions, they're probably going to get the sale from you.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think so. For me, this is still an S tier cover simply because, partially because it is still iconic. And I mean, everyone just looks good here. And you're right, the masthead is very cool. At the time, I don't know that anything like it had been done. So,
I think I would put it at an A level. I think Spidey's kind of dilute. He's kind of not. I mean, he's sort of the center, but the other characters take some of the attention away. But it is interesting that they're still assembling the Marvel toolkit, and
okay.
when Spidey gets his own book, they lead with a crossover.
Yeah, they do. They do. All right. You know what? I can negotiate that down to a high A. So I'm good with
Yeah,
that. So
A plus for sure.
yes, yes. All right, moving on, we're going to get to Amazing Spider-Man issue number 2. This one features, I believe, the Vulture on the cover. And then we've also got like kind of an inset here where it talks about a story with the Tinkerer. And okay, yeah, no, you can very clearly tell now that this is a Steve Ditko cover. So, Steve, what do you think of this cover?
Uh, well, they grab people rather than doing the gimmicks. They're relying on the power of Steve Ditko as a character designer. Uh, the
Yeah.
Vulture in the original incarnation is not really my favorite. I'm not sure why he's green. He doesn't really read as Vulture to me. Uh, it's the earliest version where he has a bird tail.
I'm guessing it's because the green really stood out.
Yeah,
Like I'm thinking that's probably the meta reason.
I know Lee was a real stickler for, he wanted to have a hand in the coloring, the backgrounds to make sure the thing
Yeah, I could
popped.
see that about him.
So it's interesting though to, you see Ditko, the master storyteller there too, and in addition to drawing that complicated suit, he also set the task for himself to draw a character who can't really emote with his face.
Hmm.
So it's all done with body language, and you see him really coming through with that. And I wonder, I kind of wonder if that's why you've got an early version of like the spider sense, wavy lines coming off of his head. I sort of wonder if that's something they just came up with because it's another tool to express danger, to heighten the drama of it. Because to my knowledge, actual spiders don't have any sort of extrasensory sense.
Right, right. I mean, for me, what I've got here is Spidey is in a dangerous situation. The Vulture has clearly gotten him really high above the skyline, so he's in the air and he's trying to drop him. Which, I mean, that would set off my spider sense too. Be like, oh gods, you better hope he's not out of webs at that point. Which is one of those things that kept coming up. He kept running out of webs because he had to use the cartridges. Um, what about the inset here? The Tinkerer inset. Like, I you don't get a very clear view of the Tinkerer. I feel like it's just kind of like, what is this thing coming at him? Is it busting through a wall? Is it coming from off panel? And how is he reacting? It kind of looks like he's standing there. He's almost striking a pose, and not like a battle pose.
What's
So,
interesting too, the geometry there, it's almost like the two Spider-Man are sort of mirroring each other. So that's an interesting
mm,
composition.
okay, yeah, I could see that. I could see that. Okay.
In one of the annuals they did, it was of course before, who's who in the Marvel universe or whatever,
Hmm.
but they did some like recap things with pin-ups of different characters. And when they did the one on the Tinkerer, it was like they were sort of like ho hum,
Right.
Uh,
I mean,
it's
I
like,
mean,
Steve and I, you can't win them all, it's
this,
not your, it wasn't our best day.
yeah, this doesn't really relate to the cover too much, but I think it's kind of hilarious that in his second issue, Spidey is facing off against a pair of geriatric superhero or super villains, basically. And it's just kind of like, were you guys going for a theme here? What was it? So, all right. What do you think of this cover, rating wise? S, A, B, C, D, or
Can I
F?
throw another in there?
Sure.
They've refined the cover, and it's. I mean, they've redefined redone the masthead there, and
Well,
it's
they've
great.
they've certainly re-angled it.
Yeah,
Yeah. And it works. They've got the little box corner with Spidey in it
yeah. I
instead.
love corner boxes, so
Yeah.
that Spidey there really works.
Yeah. So, all right. What do you think?
I would give this one a B. I'm just like, oh, one other thing I'd add is, it's nothing like a Ditko skyline. That's a great Ditko skyline. New York City was kind of a character in the book too.
Okay.
Yeah, I would put that one at B. It's
Put
not
that at a
my
B.
favorite.
Don't
Just
I don't
probably.
have any I don't have any real objections to a B rating. It's the first Ditko cover, which I think is significant. But there I'm not like as pulled into this issue as I am uh, the other two by this cover. I've got some questions that are just kind of like not great questions to be asking, and I mean, it doesn't detract from the fact that this is still a good cover. It's just that like it's not wowing me like the other ones have. All right, so Amazing Spider-Man number 3, and let me just go ahead and change things up real quick. So now I will admit to being a little biased here. Doc Ock is probably my favorite Spider-Man supervillain, so we're gonna start it off there. Um, but this cover, this is an interesting cover. I think it's very interesting that you do not see Doc Ock's face on the cover. I mean, you probably wouldn't anyways because his back is mostly to the reader here. But like, I really think this is a cool cover in the sense that we've got a foe who actually looks like he really does have Spidey on the ropes on on his first appearance. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, it's another great Ditko design. Just the Doc Ock designs, tremendous. And sometimes the word balloons, the verbiage on the covers can be sort of redundant. But,
Yes, yes, they
you were
can.
helpless, Spider-Man. I warned you. The power of Doctor Octopus is far greater than yours. It kind of sells it here. The guy with the mechanical arms. This guy looks like he's a threat.
Yeah, yeah.
And you got again. It's interesting that the cover geometry. Got the Spider-Man suit on full display. Uh, I think it's definitely a high A for me.
Yeah, I would say that this one is probably belongs in at least the A tier, and I'm good with it. We don't need to see Doc Ock's face on the cover. As a matter of fact, I feel like the silhouette kind of adds an air of mystery to it. So I am a-okay with that. And yeah, let's just go ahead and place him where he belongs. All right. And now we're moving at a clip. I would like to say hello to Double P and also to Alan Copeland. Good to see you guys. Hope all is well. And let me go ahead and give Hail to the Geeks her welcome thwip. So welcome, guys. Good to see you. And we're going to move on to Amazing Spider-Man number 4. Now this one is, it looks like it's the first appearance of the Sandman, who is, at times he is a great Spider-Man villain. At times he is just kind of meh. But I think this cover, which we have like a four-corner design here, and like it's really doing a good job of displaying the potential danger that Sandman could be to Spidey. Steve, what do you think of this cover?
When I first I reviewed these like a week ago, and when I first was looking at that, I was thinking, this is just brilliant Ditko storytelling, your master storyteller.
Mm-hmm.
He's, even by comic book standards, the Sandman is pretty high concept. He's pretty trippy. He's this,
Yeah.
this guy that can
Yes,
turn
he
into
is.
sand and reform himself, and they don't really show it here, but he can make his, sand hammer fists or things like that. So it's like, how do you just bring that across on a cover? Well, it's like you make it a newspaper comic strip.
Mm-hmm.
It's 4 panels. That could be a Spider-Man newspaper strip. And oh, the other thing I dearly love about it is, and I haven't seen this much before or since in the '60s era, but Spidey's web line clearly hooks into the masthead. I love
Oh
that.
yeah, that's pretty cool. And yeah, no, I never noticed that. Very nice.
And again, Ditko has to do storytelling with the character that can't emote with his face. And the last panel, it's like, you've got the sand pouring down on him, but, it's like, I see people going to the beach and burying dad in the sand, and it's not like life threatening or anything. But,
Right.
he sells the peril there, even though it, doesn't maybe necessarily make a super huge amount of story sense, but he's selling it.
Right, right. And he's trying to looks like he's trying to drown him in sand, which, might not be the easiest thing to do, but it's probably not comfortable, and you're probably gonna feel threatened at that
Or,
point.
he's gonna have
So,
to shower like 4 times to get rid of it.
right, right. Yeah, yeah. So that's
Still
that's
stuck in the costume for months.
so what do we think rating wise? Where would you place this?
I think that's a really high A. It's not quite iconic, but I love how clever it is.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Like it again, it's really good at just demonstrating, and it does a lot of showing rather than telling. And I think that's very important here too. And again, I mean, this is vintage Steve Ditko trippiness. So I think that's I think I agree with you. A tier. I'm just going to go ahead and throw out a spoiler warning to everybody, but these are mostly Steve Ditko covers. I don't see a whole lot of bad grades for these. Like the man did not do terrible work. So we're going to move on to Amazing Spider-Man number 5, and before we do that, hold on. Double P just said something in the live stream. Randomly popped into a local show after not buying comics, a local shop, I assume, after not buying comics for almost 8 years. Picked up some low grade to mid grade copies of ASM 53, 54, 60, 62, 66, 75, and 77. Nice. Congratulations. You don't have to tell me this, but I am curious to know how much you spent on that. He also got X-Men Days of Future Past number 141 and 142, and an OG Secret Wars number 1. Okay, now I have to know how much you spent on those. Okay, but seriously, congratulations. That's really cool, Double P. And it's good to see you. I feel like it's been a second since I've seen you. All right, we are moving on to Amazing Spider-Man number 5, and we've got Doctor Doom on the cover. This is another very kind of crossover, like, hey, he exists in a larger Marvel universe. Of course, Doctor Doom, you know, like now he is iconic. I assume he was pretty iconic as soon as he first
He
appeared.
was, I think he first appeared in Fantastic Four 5, which would have been like, I don't know, 4, 5 months prior to this.
Really? Okay, so he was still new.
Yeah, and
Wow.
one of my like top two, three all-time favorite, just one of the best Marvel villains.
No, no, he is. I can't wait to see him in the MCU eventually.
You know, I love the pulpy origin story.
Yeah, no, it's really good. So it looks like okay, so Spidey's web is definitely not connected to the masthead on this one because it's been the connection has been broken. And again, we got Doom doing what he does best, which is taunting superheroes. And he's basically saying, "This is your finish, Spider-Man. If the Fantastic Four themselves could not stop me, what chance have you?" And then he's firing some kind of energy bolt from his suit at him, and we've just got some text. Spidey looks like he is kind of on his back heels, both figuratively and literally here. And is he in Doom Castle? I don't remember at this point because it looks like we've got some kind of mechanized room setting
Yeah,
that they're squaring off
I think
in.
he had it's like a Latvian embassy or something. I remember
Okay,
that. It's been a
okay,
long since I
yeah,
read these.
yeah, same. But yeah, what do you think of this cover?
It's not one of my favorites from the original run. It's
Okay.
interesting to me, uh, I guess partly because Ditko was inking, but Kirby does really effective uh, Spider-Man in the first couple of covers.
Hmm.
A lot of the other Kirby drawings of Spider-Man don't work for me. He just doesn't look right, and
Right.
the
Yeah.
character doesn't play to his strengths the way that that the character plays to Ditko's strengths. And I think the converse is sort of true here with Doctor Doom. Doom's kind of a quintessential Kirby character. He was very imposing, sort of Darth Vader before there was Darth Vader.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
And, you don't. He's not really bringing that. And Kirby was also great at powerful energy effects. Making uh, ray blasts just look dangerous, and here it's like, oh, I'm gonna let me pop something out of this one finger, and it's not even is he doing firing like a warning shot or something? It's not really near where Spidey is. You don't get the storytelling why his web line broke either. He's just kind of in this awkward position. It's and uh Ditko doesn't do sci-fi machinery that's as imposing as Kirby's either. Looks like he's got like a foot pedal there. It's like a sewing machine or something.
Yeah.
It's not really reading as sci-fi trippy or imposing. Uh, I'd put it like you know I have a hard time giving Ditko less than a B, but it's kind of B minus for me.
B minus. Yeah, I mean, I can kind of agree with you. Doctor Doom doesn't look particularly threatening here. I mean, he looks so tiny, and I know that you could probably fix that with some posing and stuff like that. But he's not really being portrayed as the threat that we know he can be. And yeah, Spidey, I mean, he looks like he's jumping back a little bit here, maybe, but I don't know. I like the shading, like on the arms and everything. I think that all looks really good, at least on Spidey. Doom, yeah, here I guess he feels like there's a bit more to be desired here, and again, yeah, compared to Jack Kirby, who could draw Doom in his sleep, I think that's saying something. So I'm good. I'm good with a B rating here. I think that is just fine. Again, a B rating is still brilliant. This is like if you're a C, you still shouldn't be ashamed. But I also feel like it's not grabbing me the way that the others
Yeah.
have.
Just one more item about like Marvel first. I didn't research it exhaustively, but I think this may be the first time you had a crossover with the villain. We'll loan out Fantastic Four to Spider-Man. Of course, that would be done a lot more times
I like
later
that.
on.
Yeah, I like that. But yeah, no, that may be true here. That may be true. All right, so we're gonna move on to what is it, issue 6, I believe, and we're gonna put it up here real quick, and let me just bring up the visual for us to look at. Okay, and so this is gonna be the first appearance of the Lizard, and I'm looking at this and I'm just looking at the lizard and I'm going, what? This does not look like the lizard that I know of today. And I know that a lot of artists are going to take they're going to do their own interpretations of Spider-Man and Spider-Man's villains and everything. This lizard looks so weird to me. And I think they were going for maybe like a creature from the Black Lagoon type of imitation or something here, but like it does not he doesn't look like a lizard. He looks like a weird kind of snake man, and that just throws me. The overall kind of dynamics of the cover are cool because it looks like they're both falling and fighting at the same time. um the purple contrasting the lizard's green skin. I'm just kind of like, who's wearing a purple suit even in that day,
Well, it's a coloring mistake, right? Or
is that what it was?
I'm kind of puzzled over this because
Okay.
well, a couple points. Well, Lizard normally wears a white lab coat,
Right,
which
yeah.
is, to me, that's some like just really concise storytelling. You see a guy that's half man, half lizard wearing a lab coat. You really don't have to do the backstory at this point. It tells you all you need to know. It's like, dude, don't try the prototype experiment on yourself. That
Right,
never ends well.
right.
Uh, so I wondered if, I think it's just a coloring mistake. I wondered if maybe they didn't want to do white for production reasons, but there's a white background a few issues later on.
Oh yeah.
But another point is purple and green are supervillain colors,
Yes.
or at least they're scary. They got to
Yeah.
that with the Hulk character too.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think Ditko refined his lizard design down the line. I of course read the books out of order. When I went back to these really early ones, it's like Blizzard's got a flat face here. So,
Yeah.
I think it's a case of, Ditko refined the character later on. Still pretty scary character,
Yeah.
pretty interesting dynamics with, Spider-Man kind of hung up in his own web and being menaced. I guess they're down a well or something. Who knows?
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can see that. I missed that design at first, but yeah. Okay, that makes things a little bit more logical, I guess. Okay. All right. Well, what would you rate this one?
But, it's kind of the prototype version of the lizard, but I think it's pretty great. I'd give it an A.
You give it an A? All right. I'd probably give it a high B or a lower A. Because overall, dynamically, I am pulled in by it. It's just that lizard face is really throwing me, and I'm having a hard time getting over it. So, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna stick it in the B range. With the understanding that it would be like a high B to a low A. So, um, and we'll move on from there. All right. So now we are on issue. It looks like it's issue 8. It looks like the vulture, or is it 7? I can't even. It's issue 7. My apologies. There we go. And it looks like, hey, the vulture returns. I think we're seeing one of the earlier examples of what did you term it? Stan's overwriting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because clearly we see that the vulture has returned. Now, it's possible that this would be the first cover of Spider-Man that someone sees because the comic is still pretty new. So I can understand the need for that text in there. But, like from someone in my position looking back on all this, it's like, is that necessary? But, when you historicize, I suppose, like, okay, I get it. I
Yeah.
don't know. Steve, what
Yeah.
thoughts on this
Oh,
cover?
yeah. I don't think he really reads as Vulture. It's just an old guy in a bird suit. And the green coloring.
Yes.
They later scrapped the bird tail, just gave him the wings.
Right. Yeah.
Uh, is some interesting dynamics. Ditko's nothing if not dynamic. Uh, this is kind of a B tier cover, I guess.
I kind of agree, and one of the reasons that I do is because, like, okay, so clearly you can see the skyline at the bottom of the cover, and it's I wish we could get rid of the preview. Okay, there we go. So like it you can see that there is they're fighting in the city. There must be fighting fairly close to the ground, but it just feels to me like the sky is too empty. Like I feel like there should be more going on there. And the vulture, I mean, again, assuming that people were not in that day just laughing at the concept of an old man in a bird suit being a threat to Spider-Man.
Well,
Uh,
it's not the basic idea of the character, you know, does sort of pose a threat. Spider-Man's kind of unique in that he swings. He can't
right.
really he's limited in his ability to change direction. So you put him up against a guy that can actually fly and move in all three dimensions. That's kind of a dilemma for him.
Right. Yeah.
The character just doesn't really sell it.
Yeah. Yeah. And Spider-Man as you like him, fighting, joking, daring, challenging. The text on the cover just feels like it's taking up space. It's not doing much for me here. And we also have a thought bubble on the cover here, which at the time I imagine that's fairly common, but like I don't feel like the cover is the place for thought bubbles. It's like let's do like let's just show the action here, or if you've got something to say, let's say it. So yeah, what did you say? B tier?
Yeah,
I think I agree with you. I think B tier. This is a fine cover. Again, it would sell me the book, but again, like like a lot of the other covers in this list, which are again good, they're fine. They're just not as good as the four that we've got above them at that point. All right, so we are going to move on to issue number 8, and we have got Johnny Storm returning to the cover here as the Human Torch shows up, and I don't remember this story. I want to say that I've read it, but I don't remember it. We've got the Human Torch on the cover. We've got the Living Brain, very, very old and almost completely until recently forgotten Spider-Man foe. And then we've got Pete boxing with Flash Thompson. And I think this might be the issue where he ditches his glasses or something. So, but anyways, interesting that they just went with just a blank yellow background on this cover, you know. I like that the Human Torch is coming back. We find that the Human Torch graces a lot of these early Spider-Man covers, so clearly Marvel liked these two together. Steve, what are your thoughts?
yeah. Well, I think it's the first time you get the Human Torch and Spider-Man sort of one-on-one, the beginning of their relationship as frenemies. Uh,
Yes. Oh, yes, definitely.
and also, tribute to teenagers issue. I guess maybe playing to their demographic, and it's interesting to me too. You've got one of the insets is Peter Parker fighting with Flash Thompson. Spider-Man books always had, an A supervillain story, superheroic story, and then the B soap opera story. So it's kind
Right.
of a turning point here where I guess Stan thinks, the soap opera is also selling the book. Let's put some of that on the cover.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, like, this kind of plays into the whole concept behind Spider-Man, which was, Stan got that resistance at first. Hey, nobody wants to see a teenage superhero. Nobody wants to hear about their personal lives, and turns out that that's true. That stuff does sell comics, and so um, overall, I mean, this is again not a bad cover. It's I don't know. I guess I'm not a huge fan of all the insets on it, and I feel like the yellow background just kind of feels a little lazy to me. This one I would, I mean, but I do like the composition of Spider-Man, and I like the way the Human Torch looks as well. I This one I would probably still stick in the B tier, but it's decently high on the B tier. What do you think?
I think I like a little bit more than you do. I mean, that's just a great Ditko Spider-Man figure. I
Hmm.
like the way he's kind of got it shaded,
Yeah, no, the shading is
and
nice.
I don't know if they ever like pulled that out for merchandise or whatever, but it's a pretty iconic pose. Uh, yeah, I would I'd put it in the A category.
Okay. I mean, I could probably go with a low A tier rating as well. So I'm good with that. We'll go ahead and put it in there. And again, like it's with the understanding that like this cover and like the lizard cover could probably switch depending on my mood, So but yeah, so it makes it into the A tier, and we're going to move on to, I believe, what is it, issue 9 now? Yes, we are moving on to issue 9, and it looks like we are going to be meeting Electro for the first time here. So, Steve, thoughts on this cover? We got two images on it.
Yeah, it's I think it's some pretty great Steve Ditko storytelling here. You know, it sets up a dilemma for Spidey where his uh, his normal tricks don't work. His normal toolkit don't work. You know, if he punches Electro, he gets electrified.
Yes.
Uh, so that to me is a compelling dilemma. That's going to suck somebody into reading the book.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, usually he could at least take these other guys out by punching them. Here, he's really got to use his brain. And I mean, like, that's the thing. Spider-Man is supposed to be a smart person. That's one of the reasons I'm a mechanical web shooters guy, because I like the idea of someone being smart enough to supplement their own superpower set. So now you have to go a little further and be like, what do we got here? I gotta use my brains for this one. I can't just punch him. And so I like the idea that in the first image we got Spidey just getting electrocuted, getting shocked, and then Electro just kind of doesn't seem to care about him. He's like, you know what? Screw you. I got my money. I got what I need. I'm getting out of here. I like it.
And,
I
and
like
he's got his bag of money with a dollar sign on it, like all banks have.
Yes, yes. That is just hilarious, and in my opinion, that's just like that actually brings it up for
Yeah,
me.
the
So,
pretty great Ditko skyline in the background too, and some the sort of electricity halo around Spidey there kind of reminds me of what Ditko would do later with Shade the Changing Man for DC.
mhm.
Interesting development in Ditko's bag of tricks.
Yeah. And I'll mention also, I mean, this certainly isn't the first cover where we have the villain being silent on the cover, but I do like that Electro just in his body language and just in how he's depicted, he doesn't seem to care. He does not give any importance to Spider-Man being there. He's like, get out of my way, and just keeps walking. So I don't know. For me, I feel like this is an A tier cover.
Yeah, A for me.
A for you? Okay, all right. That was a really quick agreement. I love it. So, all right. So Electro's cover goes up into the A tier. All right. So I know how I know this is issue 10, and not just because we did issue 9 just now. It's because the enforcers are on the cover, and for some reason, my brain like locks the enforcers into issue 10. I don't know why, but it does. So we've got I mean we got this weird kind of blank, like, what is this, grayish, whitish background, but it's we've got Spidey up against Ox, Fancy Dan, and I'd never remember all the enforcers' names.
Montana, I think.
Montana was one of them, and I don't know who the fourth guy is. So if anyone wants to school me on that, please feel free. But yeah, what do you think of this cover, Steve?
I like the Spider-Man figure a lot. It's just Spider-Man pointing. You know, you got
Yeah,
the
he's he,
who's the mask guy, the master planner or something.
maybe,
Yeah,
yeah.
but you know, if you could isolate the Spider-Man figure and put that on a T-shirt, I would totally buy that
Oh
T-shirt.
yeah, no,
And
absolutely.
of course, Spider-Man pointing has become a huge meme thing. So
Yes.
an early Spider-Man pointing, uh, I just I'm not never been a big fan of the enforcers. I think they look like a bunch of scrubs. You know that they're
They're no Green Goblin, they're no Doc Ock. Yes, I agree with you, but
they
I
don't.
think as low level like threats, employed by like the mob or something, I'm okay with
I
that.
guess when I was a kid reading it, the concept of like organized crime enforcers didn't resonate really with me. But you know, none of them look like they pose any kind of real danger to the Amazing Spider-Man. It's like, Spider-Man faces the enforcers. Okay, what are you going to do on page two?
Okay, all right, that's fair. I definitely agree with you about the pose. The background just really brings the cover down for me.
And
It's like are they just facing you in a slate green gray room or something here? Like what is going on here?
I guess maybe they just wanted the colorful characters to pop.
Maybe, and I mean that's fine, but I feel like there should at least be like, eh, you know, a wall in the background, a line demarcating the floor or something, and we just don't get that. And so I'm just like, okay, you guys are facing like they're clearly on a floor. This is either a big floor or people, people just got lazy. So
At the bottom, you've got learn why J. Jonah Jameson really hates Spider-Man. So
that would pull me in.
yeah, and
That would
that
pull me
again,
in.
they're using the soap opera part to
Yes.
pull people in. When I was trying to find a copy of this to analyze earlier, it sort of blocked off that corner, the first part of that. Learn why J. Jonah Jameson. So it was like all I was seeing is Jameson really hates Spider-Man, and it gave me it had an idea for a pitch for a J. Jonah Jameson comic book that would be entitled uh, J. Jonah Jameson hates on people.
you know, if he's breathing, that's what he's doing. So, all right. So, tier rating wise, where would you place this?
I would. I'm not a big Enforcers fan. I would kind of put it in the A zone just on the strength of the Spider-Man figure.
Okay. Not certain I agree with you there. For me, I mean, again, it's like you said, the enforcers, they don't look like they're particularly a threat. There's a dude with a lasso, there's a strong guy, and then there's a really short guy in a green suit. I'm just wondering what the heck he does, you
Yeah,
know?
he was like, wasn't he like the trick shooter with the
Probably.
six shooters?
Probably, but right here, I'm just like, who is this little squirt? Even the guy in the mask, I'm just like, who are you? What are you gonna do? For me, I would actually personally put this one. If it weren't for the pose, this would be a C tier comic for me, like a C tier cover at least. But like the pose is really good. It's very iconic, and I feel like that brings it up at least one full letter grade. I have a really hard time giving it an A uh, rating, just personally.
That's fair.
So I think we'll go ahead and put it there. And I take your counsel very seriously, and I've made a couple adjustments based on it. But I think in this case, I gotta be stubborn,
Yeah,
So
I can see your point of view.
yeah.
I
Okay,
wouldn't argue that too much.
let's go ahead and move on to number 11. And this one, oh man. Okay, again, I will cop to some bias here. Doc Ock, in my opinion, best Spider-Man villain ever. All right. With that said, I love this cover. And really, first of all, Doc Ock's angular head makes him to me look like Frankenstein with octopus arms here. But I mean, look at this pose. Like he is like on top of Spidey. He's got him gripped in one of his non-mechanical arms. He looks like a threat here. There's a lot of text on the page, but like that picture is really just grabbing my attention and it will not let go. Steve, what do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right on that. It doesn't make a huge amount of story sense that he's grabbing Spidey with his human arm because Dr. Octopus has the proportionate strength of a middle-aged man who's not in terribly good shape.
That's a good point, actually.
But
That's a really good
you
point.
know, Ditko sells it. The dynamics are incredible. The mechanical arms look threatening.
Yeah.
In a way that
And one of them looks like it's coming around to grab his shoulder,
yeah.
you know. So, yeah, no, this one to me is as close to a, I don't want to call it like a horror comic, but we're talking like Spidey looks like he is really on the ropes here and that he is in like genuine danger. And like if I saw this on the cover, I would grab it, no questions asked. The way that the threatening aura that Doc Ock exudes, Spider-Man looking uncertain right there and prone. This I would grab it. Now again, I will cop to being biased here. S tier.
I would put it more in the the A range,
Okay.
A plus
A
range. But
plus.
no, I could see
Yeah.
it's
I mean,
I could
I
see
mean,
as
like I'm, and again, I'm perfectly willing to admit I'm biased here. Like again, I love this character. I also think that if we correct for bias, I think we've got a fairly accurate rating. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take your advice on this one. Doc Ock has at least A tier covers so far, so that makes me happy. So, all right. And we are going to move on to what I believe is issue number 12. And it's another Ock cover. Okay, Steve, I just want to know what you think of this one right out the door.
well, one thing. It's they're kind of doing a DC riff. We unmask the character, but they did that sparingly. It works for me,
Hmm.
and also incorporates the supporting cast in there. You got some generic cops, but there's Betty Brant with her cute little bob, and
Yep,
J. Jonah Jameson.
yep,
So it kind of shows both sides of the book, and then you've got great pose. The mask is off, so Peter can act with his face, and he's
right.
selling the scene. Uh, I think it's a great cover. It's an S for me.
Oh, an S,
Yeah.
really? Okay. I mean, again, I like it too. I think this is really cool. I think again we see Stan Lee doing some overwriting here, unmasked by Octopus. I'm like, we already see that, But I mean, I guess the text can help sell it too, like, yeah, he got him, what is he gonna do now? But I feel like Stanley probably could have written something different and still had a stronger effect on what was being portrayed here. But yeah, I like I like your analysis about how it brings like the A tier and the B, or the A tier, the A plots and the B plots together in one illustration. Uh, Doc Ock looks completely triumphant here, and really these first three covers with him do also an amazing job of establishing that Doc Ock is no mere like spider villain. He's an actual threat. The first time that he fights Spider-Man, he beats him. He beats him, like he holds him up. He like slaps his face and punches him and basically throws him out the door and just kind of be like, wow, like I actually lost my first fight here. Really caused Spider-Man to kind of question whether he wanted to continue superheroing him. And I think that the comics do a really poor job of, I feel like, fleshing Doc Ock out as a character, but they do a really good job of establishing him as a threat that will always keep Spider-Man on his feet when they go toe to toe. And so, yeah, I again biased, but S tier. Like Doc Ock is just a threat, and this cover does a great job of showing it. So, Hail to the Geeks has asked, are the arms connected to his ribs? The arms are connected to a harness that goes around his body. And I think probably if you're seeing the arms come out of clothing, I think you just have to assume there are holes in it. So, um, Let's see. Snow Dude has asked a couple of questions. Do you play Marvel versus Capcom games or know of it? I have played one of the Marvel versus Capcom games, and apparently I am just terrible at fighting games because I got my ass handed to me, and I just didn't want to continue. But I might be willing to try them again sometime. We'll see. And then he also asked, do you guys read manga or watch anime? Do you watch or read MHA? Oh, My Hero Academia. If you do, would you guys like a My Hero Academia Marvel Spider-Man crossover? So I only read manga occasionally. I don't really watch anime. I know about My Hero Academia. At this point, I feel like if there's ever a market for it and it happens, I would probably read it, mostly for Spider-Man. But I don't know enough about My Hero Academia to have any real opinions on it. So, and I don't know, Steve, do you watch anime or do you read manga or anything like that?
I've read some of and watched some of the classics. I think really the only I was really into Akira. I read all the
Okay,
Marvel reprint of the Akira stuff, and I've read a lot of the classic sci-fi.
okay,
I watched a lot of the sci-fi classic anime.
okay.
I kind of know of My Hero Academia, and it was one of those things I was thinking of queuing up to watch and hadn't gotten around to it.
Same, same.
As crossovers, I remember I think they had an Avengers and Attack on Titan, and it's like, how's that going to work? It just kind of, I think it dilutes both concepts.
I mean, if they can come up with a good narrative reason, then I say go for it. But yeah, like I would be skeptical up until the moment I read the story, and I have had my mind changed. I read the story and I'm like, wow, this is really good. But yeah, like at I don't have a lot of, I don't have, I don't have a lot of background to answer that question in a very satisfying way, Snow Dude. But I appreciate the question. So. All right, we're going to move on to unlucky number 13. This will be our 14th rating, though. And looks like we got the first appearance of Mysterio here. Steve, what are your thoughts on this one?
It's just, Mysterio's just a great Ditko design. It's like, how can you look at that character and not get sucked in? It's like, what is this guy about?
Yeah, and I mean, like he's named Mysterio. Okay, who is he? You know?
When I first was reviewing it, when I kind of glanced at a thumbnail, it's like I saw if they did 3 panels. So I was thinking, in Mysterio is pretty high concept. Are they going to do storytelling, to flesh out the character on the cover? And then it immediately occurred to me that, of course they're not. They don't call him Mysterio for nothing.
I like it.
But it's also they're kind of doing another DC riff here in the first panel at the bottom. What's this Spider-Man turning to crime? Well, of course he's not.
Right, but let's show it and then explain it later.
And then you have Spider-Man going to a psychiatrist, which back then there was a stigma about getting mental health assistance that happily we don't have anymore. And if you need some kind of help, get it. If
Yeah,
you care about what my opinion is,
yeah.
for what it's worth.
No,
But
I agree with you completely.
in the context there, it's another case of uh, Peter Parker being the Charlie Brown of superhero comics, the always glass always half empty.
Right. Yeah. 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 But I mean, overall, no, I like this cover too. I certainly like the Mysterio part of the cover. He looks exactly like he should be named. Like who is this? What is this?
Oh,
What am I up against?
and once again, green and purple is just super villain
Yeah.
colors.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I had purple pants, I would have worn them.
And I think we're gonna get another dose of that on the next cover too. But the smaller like the smaller ones they're not doing a lot for me. They're very tiny. But like it for me, it's like the text that actually sells those. Oh, he's going to a psychiatrist. Oh, somebody thinks he's committed crimes. Let's see how they foil that. But like at least in terms of the art, I'm like, okay, that Mysterio, like it a lot. For me, I'd give this one an A tier. What do you think?
I think it's an A.
A? A it is. Let's go ahead and get him up there. Lots of A tier covers, and you know what? That is A okay. All right, moving on. We're gonna go ahead and go to, hey, look who we've got here. Look who we've got here. Hey, you guys have been waiting for it, and now you've received it. The first appearance of the Green Goblin. But look who else is on the cover. And I don't just mean Spidey. Look who else is green and scary and on the cover. It's the Hulk. Um, okay, Steve, I'd just love to know your thoughts on this cover right out the door.
Uh, I mean, it's our first Green Goblin, which is great. Ditko design.
He looks like he's riding a broom.
Yeah, yeah, they didn't bring in the glider till later, and it
Yeah.
is supposed to be a broom. It's
We've got the enforcers in the background.
ho hum.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
uh,
But overall, what do you like about this cover, or what do you dislike?
I don't think you really need the Hulk there. I remember he did do a cameo in the book, so it's more cross promoting. I loved the Spider-Man figure and the Green Goblin figure. That's just another trippy Steve Ditko design you can't help but be sucked in by.
Yeah,
If I had any notes, it would be just, let it be the Goblin and Spidey. We don't need all these other elements.
yeah, yeah. They're clearly building a a Marvel universe here, and I mean, you hear this when people talk about like the MCU and stuff, like they do too much cross promoting, and I would say this cover, if I had any notes, yeah, like it would be there. There's so much other stuff going on. Like let's just let these two do their thing. Of course, now at the time we didn't know that the Green Goblin was going to become, in the minds of a lot of people, Spider-Man's greatest foe. But like, he certainly is mysterious. He looks like a menace here, and yeah, I would like to have seen more just emphasis on this conflict. But overall, I mean, like again, this is just another one of those, like Spidey is clearly dodging something, so he's like sticking to the ceilings. He's maneuvering around the stalagmites or stalactites or whatever they are, and just kind of showing that I can't take this threat lying down. If I'd seen this cover on the newsstand, I'd have grabbed it. I'd have grabbed it, and probably the Hulk probably would have helped me grab it too, because I'm like, oh, I know the Hulk. Let me grab him too. So, but yeah, I'm thinking A2. I bet you.
Yeah, I mean, I can even see S for this. I mean, it's just great Goblin there. There's some like, I've got technical problems with it being a little too busy, but I love the two main figures.
No, I can agree with that. I don't have an issue with it. The enforcers are far enough in the background that I can just kind of forget about them if I need to.
Yeah, I think that's what they're for.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's
Just
true.
it,
But and the enforcers are they're my favorite group of enforcers that I love to forget about. All right, we're gonna move from the Green Goblin on to bum ba da da, Craven the Hunter. So Craven has got a movie coming out. It was gonna come out this year, but then they rescheduled it to August of next year, which I don't think says a lot of good about it. But um, we've got the cover of his first appearance here, and he's got Spider-Man trapped in a net. It looks like he's rushing towards him. And what's prominent to me is Spidey under a net, the dude wearing a lion's mane, and then the text Craven the Hunter. Those are the three big things grabbing me. Maybe a little bit of the chameleon at the bottom. Steve, thoughts on this cover?
yeah, I'm not a big Craven fan. To me, I mean, Craven, it sounds like Craven with a C, which means cowardly.
Yeah,
I never thought that was really a good handle for him. The only thing I really like about him is the Ditko costume, which is all over the place. You got
yeah,
the sort of lion's mane, and I think there's eyes on his vest with, several kinds of leopard spots. It's not too many people can pull that off. That's a fashion risk there.
I mean, yeah, like if you can wear that, you're wearing it with confidence,
Yeah,
you
and
know?
I like the chameleon design too. I mean, it's simple, but it's just kind of this featureless face. It does some storytelling.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talk about animal-based Spider-Man villains, and there are fewer of them than you might think. And in the in the like the '90s cartoon, they made that be a thing, right? There was kind of technology that was making all these animal villains.
Think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Been a while since I've watched it. I'm watching the 90s animated series when I'm getting on the treadmill and putting in a run or something. But I've only just started. I've got a ways
it
to
was
go.
never the one with John Semper being I guess the director of main creative force, but I only have seen like random episodes. I remember watching one like I was waiting at a doctor's office or
Mhm.
something, and it's like they had some kind of sci-fi word they made up, neo something or other for all the
Gotcha.
animal stuff, and I thought, it's kind of clever.
Yeah. So what do we think of this cover overall?
Uh, I do think it's pretty great. I think it's one where the chameleon bit in the corner really kind of works. You've got two characters who are interesting,
It
and
does kind
they're
of build the mystery a little bit, you know.
it's I guess accurate too. They kind of form a partnership in the book, as I recall.
Yeah, I feel like the chameleon, like he's like an in-law to Craven or something like that. It's some weird
I remember there's something between
dynamic. Yeah,
you know, not
but
the most physically imposing character, but the mask I think works.
is
It's
the
a really
threat.
good
Yeah,
design.
yeah. So, I don't know. I can see this one going in probably high B or low A for me. What do you think?
I like it a bit better than I guess. Yeah, I mean, I could see A minus. Some
All right, I'm good with that. We go ahead and throw this in the A tier. Yeah, I'm looking at the other covers in the A tier, and I have fewer issues with the Craven cover than I do with the others. So, I think that is A okay. So, all right. So it looks like issue 16 here, and it looks like it's the first appearance of Daredevil in Spider-Man. It's not Daredevil's first appearance, but we've got his yellow and black costume, which I mean, come on, if you know Daredevil, that's the original costume. It's the classic. If you were watching Marvel's She-Hulk, he actually does have a yellow costume in that one. It's kind of great. But Steve, what do you think of this one? I know kind of the story of this of this comic. Um, I know that like you know there's like a trapeze right there, and so I don't have an issue with them being kind of like in a circus setting. But what do you think?
well, I mean, different like backstories and whatnot, but after the success of Spider-Man, you know, in a lot of ways, until like Frank Miller got a hold of him, Daredevil was sort of the junior varsity Spider-Man. Let's have another character that swings around on a sci-fi gizmo, and
Right.
a life athletic acrobatic character. Uh, uh, yeah, I mean I guess it's an early version of the heroes have to fight before they team up.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And you know, we've got the ringmaster on the cover
Yeah.
who like he's a fairly forgettable villain. And I mean, again, we're seeing green and purple. But like this one, he looks very silly on the cover. Just like the jacket or the you know, and the tie and the top hat. And is it is it that swirling kind of hypnosis symbol thing on his top hat too?
Yeah, that's his super villain gimmick.
Yeah, it's like, okay. I mean, I like that we get Daredevil. Like we get classic Daredevil costume here. That's always fun. And you know, I like the Spidey pose, and that back spider is very different from anything that I remember seeing.
Yeah,
So,
that's true.
which I don't have an issue with. It's very memorable. I'm just sitting here going, oh wow, okay, that's new. So I guess for me, I'm kind of inclined to go with a high B on this one. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you. Yeah, it's a kind of an awkward Spidey figure there.
Yeah.
The back emblem's a little off model, and the you know uh, Ditko certainly didn't shy away from exaggerating anatomy to convey the dynamics, but the way he
True.
twisted there looks kind of awkward. And uh, the ringmaster, I think, but works better in context of the circus of crime.
Yes.
You know, you've got some uh, again, not the most imposing Spidey villains ever, but more so than say the Enforcers. At least they're
Maybe.
colorful.
Yeah. I mean, visually, I
You got
suppose that.
Ditko doing a very super villain face on the ringmaster there.
Yeah, that's you are not wrong about that. All right, let's go ahead and move on. We've got another cover that features not only the Human Torch, but we got the Green Goblin again. And one of the things that I like about this cover, I mean, it's just so colorful. Like it's it borders on being busy, but there's just enough uh kind of things are spread out enough that I'm not overwhelmed by it, you know. We've got some B plot characters on there, and then we've got the hero and the villain. Um, what do you think? What do you think of this
I
cover?
think it's terrific, and it's also it gets the Spider-Man Human Torch frenemies relationship in there, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
no,
was
it
going to
does.
web the Green Goblin, but you got in the way.
I was going to shoot Spider-Man, but you got in the way, you know. Yeah, no, I could totally see that. No, I like this one. To me, this one is an easy A. This one is an easy A. Simply, the Goblin here to me looks more iconic.
Yeah,
He Go
he's
on.
got the back glider now.
He
It
does.
graded from the broomstick.
He does. He looks like he means business here. I like the Spidey pose. I like the torch just coming in and being obnoxious. And I like Jonah just kind of running
Yes.
for cover. Like,
Interesting,
this is what I expect to see from him, you know?
interesting hand acting by Jonah. uh,
Yeah, that's true.
Betty looks very shocked. I guess some of the background characters are pretty generic, but I guess that's Flash and Liz Allen. Uh,
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah, Flash I recognize. Liz, I didn't
and
catch her. Okay.
the guy in the lower right corner looks a little like Stan. I don't know if that's before he adopted the toupee or in the timeline.
Maybe. Anything's possible with Stan. So, all right. So what do you think? A list or A
Yeah,
tier?
I think that's a strong A.
I think you're right. I think you're right. Let's go ahead and stick it in there. Okay. All right. And we are down to the final three here. So we have got issue number 18 here. And looks like we've got Spider-Man and Sandman on the cover. And oh, hold on. I moved the wrong thing here. There we go. All right. So I'm sorry, we're down to the final four. Okay. So we've got Spider-Man crouching behind a some covering around the corner from Sandman. Uh, and I'm definitely intrigued by the premise of this cover. I'm also kind of a bit like, why is Spidey hiding from Sandman? Like, I know he's dangerous, but that's never stopped him from confronting a foe. What do you think?
Yeah. When I first saw it, I was thinking, is this going to, the edge of the wall sort of subdivides it to two. So at first glance, I was thinking, are they doing, two panel storytelling? And it's kind of muddled to me, there's all this crap against the wall, and I'm not sure, uh, that could have been cleaned up. It's a pretty creepy, weird looking Sandman. You're seeing him do some things you haven't seen on a cover before.
Yeah, the
The
extended
big,
arm.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's pretty compelling. That sucks you in. It's a good Spider-Man figure, and it, this is kind of a Ditko thing. I mean, a DC thing too. It's like, you know, Spider-Man's brave. Why would he be cowering?
Yeah.
We're gonna have to write our way out of that one.
Yeah, and the text does, because once I read the text, it's like it does help capture the premise of the issue in a way that perhaps the art doesn't like fully convey, like it's sitting there going, okay, yes, he's doing this, but why is he doing this, and so it's supporting questions that I have about what I'm seeing on this cover. So okay, tier rating, what would you say?
I think there's some elements that are really strong, but I think I'd put it in the B range. I think it's a little muddled storytelling. That they could have cleaned up you know, why is there all this lumber there?
Yeah.
It's
No, I think I agree with you. I think it could be cleaner, and the premise could be, I think, reworked um to the point where the text wouldn't have been as necessary. So but yeah, no, I think that's fine. All right, let's move on. We are getting to issue 19 of Amazing Spider-Man. And again, Human Torch. We were just seeing him on a lot of these covers, but we've also got the Sandman, and oh look, it's the Forgettable Enforcers, who have made three appearances on covers.
Yeah. Were they
Of,
supposed to
you
be
know,
like the supervillain versions of the cast of Bonanza?
I
I
have
feel like
no
I feel like
idea.
Ox is supposed to be Haas Cartwright, but
I
but
suppose anything's possible.
I was thinking about it, there's sort of a Western theme there, but they don't even really read Western. Fancy Dan has more like the hat reads more contemporary or even like Roaring Twenties or something.
Yeah,
But
that's fair.
they but I think it's a great cover. I mean, my not favorite villains at the bottom, but you got a great Human Torch and a great Sandman there, and that
And then that
iconic
swing in
pose.
pose, yeah,
Yeah,
like that's what does it for
yeah.
me.
I mean, they basically animated that in the some of the stock footage they reused in the '60s cartoon a lot.
Yeah. And have you seen Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse yet?
Only seen the first Spider-Verse
Okay.
movie.
Um, do you mind a spoiler?
I'll,
Okay, then I won't. Then I
no, go
won't.
ahead.
Oh, okay. No. At the point when all the Spider Society is chasing Miles, and he has to like, he has to avoid all of them. One of the people that comes out and attacks him is I don't know if it's this one. Like it looks like this Spider-Man. It could be the one from the 1967 animated show, and like he's swinging out just like this cover pose, and then he ends up stopping. He's like, "Oh, I've hurt my back," and Miles gets past him. It's like this really cute blink and you'll miss it cameo that like when I look at this cover, I'm like that moment from that movie. I think visually seems to come from this. So, anyways, what would you rate it tier wise?
Yes.
Yes, I mean again that pose is just kind of everything. It's
It's clever too, he's sort of bursting through the web. I think that's great
yes.
design.
No, I know. Yeah, I saw that too. So no, it's a great pose, and I love it. So, all right, moving on. Number 20, Amazing Spider-Man number 20 features the Scorpion. And this is an interesting one. I'm actually not sure where I would rate it yet. We've got the Scorpion. He is manhandling Spidey. He's holding him up overhead, showing that he is every bit as strong as Spidey. It looks like Spidey is trying to throw out a web in desperation here. We've got Spidey's arm covering part of the masthead, and Scorpion looks like he's pretty dangerous here. Steve, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Scorpion was never really one of my favorite characters, but Ditko makes him scary. I remember reading even that design. Even I remember like watching the '60s cartoon when I was a kid and very young, watching it and thinking, Scorpion is scary. He's
Hmm.
frightening me here. Of course, I was very young at the time, and he has those. Ditko gave him those creepy eyes.
Yes.
Just he comes across as scary, and I guess you're doing the setup is kind of a bug on bug violence thing.
Yep,
Uh,
yep.
but
That's funny, but that's true.
you know,
That's very true.
both figures are just terrific. I mean, it's at least an A+ for me.
Yeah, I would say this one, like, you know, I try not to use the word iconic too much. I really feel like both poses here, though, they kind of elicit that term from me. Spidey looks like he is in real trouble here, and the Scorpion looks like he's freaking dangerous. And so I would definitely I would say this is A tier. If I have any notes, the colors are a little one note for me in terms of like the background and the way the Scorpion kind of feels like he might be blending into it a bit, but maybe that's just so that Spidey can stand out, and so I'm okay with
I really like the shadow work on Spidey there.
it. Yeah,
This is a really high A+ for me.
no, I
Verging on
agree.
S.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I'm kind of with you on that. I don't know. I don't know if I'd put it A or S.
Yeah,
I
I
think
could
I
see
think
going S. Really,
I
I
don't know
really
if I'd
like
go
it.
S. Like it's just that I don't know. The two of them work together really well here. This is a cover. This is a cover that I'm going to remember. This is a cover that like, oh yeah, that's ASM number 20 right there. So yeah, no, I think it's good. And we have finally come to the final comic cover for this episode here. We have got the Amazing Spider-Man Annual #1. And this cover features the very first appearance of the Sinister Six with its classic incarnation, Craven, Doc Ock, Sandman, Electro, Vulture, and Mysterio. Um, I'm proud to say I do own a copy of this issue, but I couldn't find it. Otherwise, I would have had it in time for the podcast. But Steve, what do you think? What do you think of this cover?
I think it's perfect for an annual. It's like we're gonna throw everything but the kitchen sink at him.
Yes.
It's kind of overwhelmingly visual. There's so much going on. Uh, Great, uh, Spider-Man hanging while all this is going on. I love the Electro
The
throwing a bolt because that's how electricity works. And you know the the Sandman looks weird and kind of scary. What's happening with his upper hand there.
yeah.
Uh, I think it's terrific. It's at least a high A for me.
Yeah, my one issue with this cover, and I might be metagaming here, but I feel like this cover sells one premise, and the story that you get with it is completely different. Because it looks like these guys are ganging up on Spider-Man. They're all gonna beat him up together. They're gonna pulverize them for beating them in the past. The story that you get, however, is that yes, the Sinister Six challenge him, but it's a bunch of one-person brawls. Like you go against Sandman first or a Vulture first, and then you have to go on and fight the next one. And Spider-Man ends up telling him, if you guys had just ganged up on me, you probably would have beaten me. And so like that it's like my one major note about this cover. Like this to me is an example of a cover overselling a premise that is not conveyed in
It,
the story.
I think it's kind of a thing with early annuals because there's like some of the Fantastic Four annuals are just really busy and information overload too.
Yeah.
If I had a note, it would be you know Mysterio is very obscured, and you know Mysterio is a great Ditko design, and you're just kind of seeing an arm and some of the fishbowl head.
Okay. All right. Yeah, for me this is an A tier cover. This is a great cover. I love it. Um it it borders on being busy without quite getting there, and you're just so pulled in by all these villains that are after Spidey.
What do you think about the colors in the masthead with the different Spider-Man letters? That's
Good. Yeah, I could have done without that, but I'm okay with it
Uh,
just for this being an annual.
Yeah, it's just it's
Yeah,
not something you've seen a lot of, but I think
yeah.
they're going for that information overload,
Oh
just
yes.
throw a lot of stuff at you and bowl you over.
No, no, I think I agree. So all right. So but yeah, I think I'm gonna go A tier with this one. Which we got a lot of good stuff in the A tier here. So I think certainly no shame in that. And we don't have anything that went below a B tier. So I'm gonna try to do the final tier list here. And let's see. Wow, I'm gonna have to try to identify these. So we're gonna start from the bottom and kind of go up from there. In the B tier, we've got Amazing Spider-Man 2, 5, 6, 7, 10. I think that's 16 with Daredevil on it. Hold on, I'm gonna go refer to that. Yep. 16. And then let's see, we have I think number 19 in there with Sandman on it. I'm sorry, that's number 18. All right. So in the A list, in the amazing tier, we have got Amazing Spider-Man number 1, Amazing Spider-Man number 3, 4, is that 5 with the Human Torch in it? The yellow one? Let's go have a look. No, that is number 8. Number 9 featuring Electro. I'm gonna double check that. Let's see. After that, I think we have number, I think 12, or is it? No, it's number 11 with Doc Ock. Great cover, that one. Mysterio's number 13. Craven the Hunter is number 15. And then we've got 2 left, including Annual number 1, and then Amazing Spider-Man number 17. And then up at the S tier, we have Amazing Fantasy 15. We have Amazing Spider-Man number 12. Amazing Spider-Man, hold on, sorry, I didn't mean to rate my own list there. Number 14 featuring the Green Goblin. We've got number, I think it's 19 featuring that classic web swinging pose. And then we've got number 20 with the scorpion in it. So that is, I mean, I think, excuse me, I think this pretty much underscores just how much effort and thought and just sheer creativity that Steve Ditko, Jack Kirby were pouring into these covers, and that they were putting forth to try to help sell this comic. I think it's very noteworthy that at least for me, none of these go into the B tier, or I'm sorry, none of these go into the C tier. There might be one or two that would have made the cut if they'd been just a little bit more bland or something. But even then, C tier is nothing to be ashamed of. You're doing the job that you're supposed to do with these covers. Steve, thoughts on the composition overall of this tier list?
Yeah, I mean it's great to review these covers. Just I haven't. I have favorite covers that I've kind of deep dived in on my own, but it's kind of great to do these and see them assembling the Marvel toolkit and building Spidey's Rogues Gallery.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
I think we had a high degree of agreement on the ratings. This is a list I can stand behind.
Yay! Well, good, good. And I think again, these tier lists, I like doing them, and I've done a few by myself, but I've actually had a lot of fun having you here to kind of like bounce ideas off of, and then just react to things that each other points out and stuff. I think that was a lot of fun. So uh, uh, I'm gonna eventually get to another 20 or 25 covers for the 1960s again. So if you're available, I might look you up. So all right. And I think that that closes out this installment, our collaborative placement of the first covers of Spider-Man's own comic books. I'd like to thank our live stream audience for their input and participation, and I can't wait to see your versions of this tier list. Remember to save and send them to my Discord server to the Webline tier list channel. The Discord invite link is on my YouTube channel banner and may have appeared during the show's live stream as well. For those listeners and viewers who are consuming this episode after its initial broadcast and would like to create their own version of this tier list, I'll again have the links to it in the show notes as well as the description for the live stream. Please feel free to do your own rankings and then share them on the Spidey Librarian Discord server. Finally, I want to say thanks to Steve Moore for coming in today to sit with me and do the very first in-house collaboration. I mean, we are like right next to each other here, you know, on the web line. So, Steve, do you have any parting thoughts?
No, not really, but it was fun. Yeah, I'm game if you want to do things in the future.
Yes, excellent. Okay. Do you have any projects or social media or anything that you would like to plug or tell people where you can be found online if you want to?
No, this I am a podcasting virgin. This is my debut, so be gentle with me out there in internet land
Oh, I mean, I had fun, and I
because
think
that
that's,
people always are on the internet, right?
oh yeah, I know. That's it's the internet, you do what you can, but I like the community that is kind of like forming around this, and I think for the most part, it's a good group. So, all right, and with that, we have reached the end of the segment, and I believe the end of the show. If you enjoyed this episode of The Webline, please be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on my YouTube channel, simply named Spidey Librarian. The Webline is also available on audio services, so when you see us on Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or another such service, please be sure to leave a review, a rating, and, if possible, a follow. You can find me on my socials under the name Spidey Librarian on Threads, Twitter X, Instagram, WordPress, and Twitch. Finally, if you'd like to just shoot me an email, you can contact me at spideylibrarian@gmail.com, where I'll be happy to hear your thoughts, rants, and ideas. You never know, your email might be featured in an upcoming episode. Be sure to join us next week on the webline, where I'll be joined once again by my friend Andrew Zimmerman Jones. We'll be discussing some Spider-Man based science, mostly centered around the question of whether or not web swinging is possible the way Spider-Man does it. Thank you for listening, and until the next episode, I'll be wishing you a good day. Bye.